Next, let's continue. We're going to talk about the Analects, a significant work from traditional culture. When it comes to diligently studying the Analects, of course, it is certainly not as profoundly intricate or spiritually deep as the sacred Buddha's scriptures. But when we talk about it, we are also revisiting the culture of ancient people from a different time and place, from a truly unique region. Within it, there are many things that are still very much worth learning and deeply reflecting on for all of us today. Some things are worth studying, some are worth pondering, and there may also be things you don't accept. It's fine if you don't accept them, because if we debate every day, not to mention the profound ideas of traditional Chinese studies, sometimes even when it comes to the deeply respected views of these truly great and virtuous elders, although we certainly wouldn't dare to say we absolutely do not acknowledge such immensely great masters like the Venerable Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti or Shantideva, still, in the ongoing process of intellectual debate, some individuals have all kinds of diverse ways of understanding them. So regarding some of Confucius' views, if you want to refute or criticize them, there's absolutely no problem with that. But you still need to have sound reasoning and evidence. Otherwise, if you look at things through tinted glasses, that might not be quite right. So today let's continue our discussion. As for today's Analects, it seems that the entire Analects from beginning to end is basically all like this. If we haven't thoroughly talked about it or properly studied and examined it carefully in depth, we might not really understand it. Even if we do understand, perhaps its historical background or the precise meaning of its central fundamental ideas may not be entirely clear or readily apparent. It seems quite evident that in a significant way, each individual passage is a bit like a complex and intriguing riddle. I see that we also have a Tibetan translation, right? But if you read it in Tibetan, when you try to think about it yourself and explain it, there might not be much to say either. Actually, sometimes we might need to elaborate on the more important points. A straightforward literal explanation is also fine. Understanding the literal meaning is also very important. But most importantly, what it talks about, its meaning, its most profound significance, this is very important. Moreover, our Udana Sutra and also Confucius' Analects too actually have some striking similarities in certain specific parts. For example, when the Buddha, in various different places, met diverse individuals, he would often recite these profound verses and then proceed to expound upon a particular philosophical viewpoint. Similarly, Confucius, when he met certain people, would also use a question and answer format, or sometimes just speak directly himself. And some of the content within them doesn't necessarily connect with what comes before or after. Even here, it's indeed the same. For example, in the earlier chapters like Xue on learning, Wei Zheng on government, and Ba Yi on rights, each of these chapters exists, but the content within them often has absolutely no direct connection to each other, indeed in any way. There are cases like this as well. So in many ways there are similarities too. That's why some people believe that the Udana Sutra in Buddhism is equivalent to the Analects. This is just like the holy and sacred Quran in the religion of Islam, the sacred and holy text, the Bible in Christianity, the foundational text of the Analects in Confucianism, and the Tao Te Ching in Taoism. These foundational texts are all quite similar in their profound wisdom and guidance. Indeed, every religion or spiritual sect has its own distinct and sacred treatises or revered scriptures that serve as their guiding principles and teachings. Of course, when it comes to the Analects nowadays, people don't refer to it as a religious text, and Confucianism is not called a religion. So that is precisely why, even in this day and age, whether it's discussed online or talked about in private, it's not considered part of a religion. It belongs to Confucianism, to the 100 schools of traditional culture, among the various different schools and sects. So it is kept well as traditional culture. Therefore, when we promote Buddhism in the future, it can be integrated with these different schools of thought. This is also truly a skillful means, and indeed can be integrated with many different teachings. So today, let's continue our discussion, shall we? Still within the Ba Yi chapter. Everyone knows the Ba Yi chapter because many of its principles are actually related to traditional rules and etiquette. whether its system of rituals and etiquette is appropriate or not, this is taken very seriously. In fact, when it comes to Confucius, the thing he valued most was ritual and etiquette, as well as matters like war and disease. Throughout his life, always, he paid particular attention to matters of ritual or matters related to war, or to the relief of suffering, disease, and illness. These were the crucial issues and significant points he cared about most. So here, the main focus is on the Bai. But judging from the actual name of this particular chapter, it's actually not entirely all about Bai. This is because at the very beginning, there is indeed a specific mention of Bai, but aside from that, there is basically no significant content available about Bai. However, perhaps for the sake of proper and accurate categorization, since it's already been said like this, then here it explicitly states, Confucius profoundly said, as for the sacrificial ceremony, from the precise point after the initial libation, I no longer truly wish to observe it, I find it unfulfilling. Here, the phrase ziyue, of course, refers directly to the profound words of the esteemed Confucius. As for Di, generally speaking, it is also considered the highest and most significant standard of ritual. It is furthermore a deeply meaningful form of sacrificial ceremony, a traditional way to respectfully worship one's revered ancestors. Some say that when it comes to the concept of Di, in fact, according to former masters of Chinese studies like Qian Mu, according to their views, this Di ritual is of a higher standard than ordinary sacrificial ceremonies. It is generally used for larger-scale sacrifices, such as those grand ceremonies that are typically held once every 5 years. There are also various such explanations and interpretations. What he precisely means here is that this is a sacrificial ceremony of a relatively high standard. From the very first libation onward, Zi here specifically refers to the concept of from, Guan, the very first offering of wine, which is indeed the main part of the libation, because during the ritual process, he needs to offer wine as an essential and integral part of the sacred sacrifice. Looking closely at the very first act of offering this significant and symbolic wine, as for onward, this encompasses the entire elaborate activity and solemn ceremony of the initial and foundational wine offering, which is a crucial ritual, judging from its profound solemnity and the extreme formality of the situation, and then, from that precise moment on, I absolutely no longer wish to continue watching this. I genuinely do not want to see any more of it at all. Confucius stated that in certain specific and profound situations, after carefully witnessing the intricate ritual of the very first wine offering, or meticulously judging from the overall state and solemnity of the ceremony itself, after observing all of that, he simply did not wish to continue watching anymore. In other words, it seems quite evident that he deeply felt at that particular historical juncture, because this statement primarily refers to the ancient state of Lu, and throughout Confucius's entire lifetime spent within the geographical boundaries of Lu, some of Lu's established ritual systems and traditional practices, their own rules and their traditions, had basically been partially or completely lost, and even had become somewhat chaotic. As we observed earlier, originally, if it was indeed a ruler, then it would have been a very significant and important figure. He would perform certain rituals reserved for the Son of Heaven, or if it was an ordinary commoner, he would carry out some actions meant for the feudal lords. So the entire system of conduct became a bit of a chaotic mess. Because of this significant issue, Confucius wisely said, when you perform these more noble and truly high-standard ritual systems, just by looking at how you participate in these activities, afterwards I don't want to watch anymore. Sometimes, when we attend a particular meeting, at first it truly seems like it's completely just a superficial surface-level act. I really don't want to keep watching anymore. Or, for example, when we go to a temple and they are holding a Dharma assembly, you can tell on the very first day what their real purpose is. On the first day, all the traditions are already gone, so people just truly can't bear to keep on watching. In our daily lives, in many situations, when we first enter, we all have this kind of profound feeling. In the past, sometimes we actively participated in various charity events, which were truly supposed to be very good and beneficial, organized by some international charity organizations, and we just thought that if we participated, maybe once we got involved, on one hand, we could learn something ourselves. And at the same time, if we gave a speech, maybe it could benefit others a little bit. We joined with very high hopes, and But as soon as we started participating, wow, it turned out to be just an advertising, or more accurately, a business event. Still an activity with all kinds of ulterior motives. It was absolutely nothing like what was originally advertised, not at all, in the announcement beforehand. So what Confucius truly meant by this, actually, it's not just about the situation at that time. In this world, there are many things that seem to have some meaning, but in reality, they don't have any true significance. On the outside, it's all just formalism. Isn't it often said nowadays as well that we absolutely shouldn't engage in formalism or excessive bureaucracy? Actually, whether in ancient times or even now, in any particular sect or any established religion, formalism is quite common. The outward appearance is well packaged, and the publicity is also done very well. But in reality, there is another purpose behind it, another intention. Other than that, there isn't any profound or truly significant meaning embedded within. Even some prominent companies in the world today, what exactly do they extensively promote on the outside? They emphatically declare, "We consistently hold the utmost and deepest respect for all our valued customers." They even claim to truly treat their valued customers like true gods. Customers are treated as gods. If they're gods, then of course they should be respected 100% and treated extremely well. But in reality, what they sell, all the products that they actually provide are fake. When it comes to actually dealing with their real customers, regardless of their attitude, in many aspects, let alone treating them like gods, they wouldn't even treat a disciple of a god that badly. It's especially poor. So as for Confucius, if we carefully look at some of the texts, he was indeed a truly upright person, an individual. Moreover, there were things he couldn't stand, and he would point them out bluntly, without reservation. If he couldn't stand something, he just couldn't stand it. He felt that nowadays many things have become just for show. It's become a kind of formality, just staying on the surface. As for this, Confucius would absolutely not reject it. He would either respond directly or answer in a slightly more indirect way, or perhaps in some indirect way. It might truly seem like he didn't really use such sharp, incisive language to criticize, not so cutting or harsh, unlike Lu Xun in the past, you see, or other scholars who would directly start refuting things. But it seems like we don't really know either whether Confucius actually had such a tone of dissatisfaction toward the system and society of the state of Lu at that time. That kind of dissatisfaction isn't really apparent here. You can't really see it in this context. When you perform sacrifices, even at the very beginning when you offer wine, I've already completely lost interest. Of course, we can tell a little about it, but as for exactly how he was dissatisfied, it's probably hard to tell. Because wise and discerning people usually have a certain artistry in their language. They tend to use more skillful and tactful ways to gently point out others' faults or shortcomings. Unlike us, who might just blurt out, "You, this and that." There was once a prominent leader who directly and unequivocally told us, "You guys, your college is incredibly dirty, exceptionally messy, and in a truly deplorable condition." He pointed it out very bluntly and quite directly, using language that was remarkably impolite and rather harsh, and was especially disrespectful and deeply offensive to some individuals present. But people like Confucius, those who are truly learned, would use very elegant language to express themselves. But in reality, what they actually said was still quite sharp and pointed. So when it comes to the entirety of history, if you truly don't have a profound sense of reverence, whether it's for some significant organization nowadays, or some kind of significant social gathering, or even the widespread and influential spreading of culture and traditions, in fact, it profoundly possesses both an intrinsic, deeply rooted and truly real meaning, and an external image, which represents how we are perceived by the world. These two fundamental aspects exist simultaneously and are intrinsically linked. If the external image truly matches the authentic inner meaning, then that's correct. But if we only make the outside look especially good, while inside there's no real meaning, then it's just an empty shell. In that particular and specific case, according to Confucian thought, this is not acknowledged or praised, Moreover, as the ancients said, people were indeed very honest and truly sincere. They absolutely wouldn't say one thing to your face and then another behind your back, not at all. They were consistent inside and out. Their appearance and reality were completely aligned. This might very well be the fundamental essence of Confucian thought. It's also something that we often discuss and talk about. This is indeed quite unlike some people in society nowadays. The elders were still very good, very genuine, and truly very kind indeed, and sought truth from facts. This is probably the most important idea being conveyed here. So, when he observed these modern rituals here, he still found them quite difficult to fully accept. He specifically pointed this out here. This is just one particular section of the overall content. Next it says, someone asked about the meaning of the specific deed sacrifice, an ancient ritual. Confucius said, I do not know. Those individuals who truly understand its profound meaning, especially in regard to the entire world, are as if they could clearly show it right here. He pointed to his palm. This is also somewhat related to what was mentioned earlier. Someone asked. This usually refers to some people because huo also carries a sense of selection or choice. Or, for example, in our Buddhist scriptures, it's often written as someone asked or someone said. This means some people say this, some people say that. Or in other words, it also means either this or that. So some people asked about the significant high-level rituals that were just mentioned, specifically the profound meaning of the ancient sacrifice. So regarding the detailed explanation of these important high-level rituals, what exactly are the established rules and principles? This crucial question was posed to Confucius. So, regarding that rather high-level conduct you just mentioned, at first glance it's quite difficult to truly accept. In that particular case, why don't you please tell us, what do you genuinely think the actual rules for these specific rituals actually are? Confucius said, I truly don't know. His personality at certain times could be described as a bit. After all, it is important to remember that Confucius was a profound and respected scholar. All scholars have certain personality traits. So whether it's our usual Khenpos or Khenmos or other scholars, they all have their own personalities. Some of our administrators, this one doesn't listen, that one doesn't listen. This happens in universities nowadays as well. There are cases like this too. University administrators everywhere often have conflicts with some of the senior professors. Actually, scholars tend to be quite headstrong. They aren't particularly obedient. They have their own personalities and their own wisdom. So as for Confucius, if you can't stand these high-level ceremonies, if you really can't accept them, then tell us. What kind of ceremony do you actually find acceptable? He said, I truly don't know. I really don't know at all. If someone understands the reasoning behind it in the world, he said, if someone truly knows and understands these important rules, if there are indeed people who genuinely do know them, then that person could govern the world. But this is very difficult. Most people don't know. If there is someone who truly does know, he could effectively govern the entire world. And then he used a very insightful metaphor. It's like looking at your own palm right now, at this very moment. He pointed directly at his own palm and actually showed everyone, if you know this, then it's just like seeing it right now. In Buddhism we say, it's like looking at the amra fruit in your hand. If someone truly knows, then he indeed knows everything, or he could govern the entire world. I don't know, I really don't know. But if someone does know, then he would truly know how to govern the entire world. Some scholars, however, have different ways of interpreting this particular statement. One way of interpreting this significant concept is that Confucius, precisely because of this guiding principle, Confucius, as a highly esteemed scholar, possessed a profound understanding of the entire intricate set of societal standards and moral guidelines, which have been passed down through the generations. Those in power, logically speaking, are the Son of Heaven, feudal lords, monarchs, or their advisors. They are the ones who know. As for me, I'm a scholar, and when it comes to political matters, that's not my area of expertise. If you want to know, you should ask those who specialize in governing the world. Those people in politics, they should know. They should have a clearer understanding. So, at the very beginning, he said, such behavior nowadays is not in accordance with the rules. So, as for what you said, I don't know either. You should ask them. On one hand, that's really what he meant. But some people interpret it as follows. Confucius said, I don't know. But this was out of humility. Why is that? Because if he truly didn't know, how could he say, if I knew? He would be able to govern the world as easily as looking at his palm. If that's the case, then if you don't know, How do you know that these rights can govern the world? You have to know that those who understand them are the ones who can govern the world. That means you do understand. Otherwise, how would you know that those who understand this principle can govern the world just as clearly as looking at the palm of their hand? There are different ways to interpret this. From this particular perspective, it truly seems rather simple on one hand. It's like two individuals saying, "What exactly are these rights like? I honestly don't know. If I did know, I could govern the world as easily as looking at the palm of my hand." It seems pretty straightforward. But in fact, what is primarily being discussed here? The main and central point is about Confucius and the traditional knowledge that has been passed down through the generations up to their present time. These things, he was not very satisfied with the current system of rites and rituals. He didn't know, I didn't know, and neither did you. He might have meant it in this way. And also, it is said that people nowadays clearly don't know, but they pretend to understand when they actually don't. They act as if they really know in front of others and perform these rituals. But in fact, when they perform these rituals, they don't have a sense of reverence in their hearts from the start. If there is no sense of reverence, then everything they do is actually quite frightening. If you really don't know and still pretend that you know, then you end up acting like someone who governs the whole world. For example, if a person is neither the Son of Heaven nor a feudal lord, but holds grand ceremonies just like the Son of Heaven, that truly means you have already become a truly great ruler, just like the Son of Heaven who governs the entire world. This is indeed very ostentatious and quite frightening, actually. If you truly understand, there is neither heavenly principle nor true reason. So at that particular time, he mainly criticized many different people, whether it was directed towards heaven or towards earth, for truly lacking a profound sense of reverence for established traditional rules and customs. Therefore, for them, such behavior, if engaged in, might indeed incur significant and severe punishment from the powerful spirits of heaven. This is truly and unequivocally not something that can be approved of or condoned. So, even up to the present day, there are still many people, especially young people, who seem to think in their minds that as long as they have food to eat and clothes to wear, or as long as it's something they can see with their eyes or hear with their ears, anything beyond that scope, they believe there is nothing deeper or more mysterious, no underlying causes or principles, and so they have no sense of reverence or fear for these things. They just keep trampling on and destroying them. The behavior of such people is truly frightening. Some individuals may not necessarily face immediate retribution or consequences in this current lifetime, but in certain specific cases, I distinctly remember there was a particular person, approximately around the significant year of 2000, I think it was subsequently reported in the news as well, gaining considerable attention. There was a particular individual, a specific person, who began to vehemently deny the very existence of all deities and spirits, completely rejecting such beliefs, refusing to acknowledge any of them. He even publicly on the internet started smashing statues of Guanyin Bodhisattva, as well as statues of Skanda Bodhisattva, and did all sorts of truly and extremely outrageous things. He boldly claimed there were absolutely no gods in heaven, no Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, and then began committing all kinds of evil and wicked deeds. Later, this particular person apparently had already amassed well over 1 million followers at that time. Then all of a sudden, this individual completely disappeared. After completely disappearing from public view, about 3 years later, he eventually reappeared. When he reappeared, he started performing animal releases himself, established some kind of animal release alliance, and began doing good deeds. It was said that from that time on, ever since he smashed the statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva, whether at home or in his personal life, many incredible and inexplicable things started happening. In the end, he had no choice but to repent. In the end, it seems he made a vow to do animal releases for a certain number of days. I think he has already done it for 696 days or something like that. Every day he would release animals and repent. So, if you lack a sense of reverence for certain things, it might not be immediately obvious. But for some people in our daily lives, you can also see some of his retribution here. So this part also talks about the kind of situation they were in at the time, whether their actions were in alignment with the deeply rooted principles of traditional culture, or if they deliberately chose to disregard and openly defy its established rules and long-standing customs, they would inevitably suffer a severe and extensive series of significant punishments themselves. Next, Confucius goes on to thoughtfully say, offer sacrifices as if the spirits were truly present. Worship the divine gods as if they were indeed present. Confucius also profoundly said, if I do not personally participate in the sacred sacrifice, it is as if there were absolutely no sacrifice at all. This is also a significant passage, and what it profoundly means is that when performing a solemn sacrifice, generally, when they meticulously performed these important sacrifices, they would devoutly worship their revered ancestors. When worshipping ancestors, your mind and actions must be in alignment. It's not enough to just go through the motions of a ritual on the surface. Whether it's your heart or your actions, everything must be genuine and sincere. The ancestors or deities you are worshipping, you should treat them as if they are truly present before you. When you perform the ritual, act as if they are really there. It's as if they are right in front of you, exactly as they would be in reality. This is how it should be when performing ancestral rites. And when worshipping the various gods, the celestial heavenly deities, when you worship these heavenly deities, whether it's the mighty mountain gods, the flowing water gods, or the nurturing earth gods, when you worship and make offerings to these gods, you can't just go through the motions or be perfunctory on the surface. You must act as if the gods are truly present. No matter if it's the earth god or the water god, treat them as if they are genuinely right in front of you. So Confucius' thinking was not that, as some people say, Confucius denied the existence of hell or heaven. He didn't acknowledge ghosts and spirits, nor past and future lives. Although we haven't seen any evidence for past and future lives, we haven't seen it. At the very least, he should acknowledge that aside from our materialist perspective, aside from material things, there are also things our eyes cannot see, a kind of existence of ghosts and spirits. This is actually quite clear and easy to understand. Here he fully and completely acknowledges this profound truth. This is because these powerful and ancient gods truly and undeniably exist. As for this particular point, because in the revered ancient text known as the Analects, he never specified exactly who said it. But it should have been during a discussion with Confucius. That's what he said. Then Confucius said, this wasn't actually a question being asked before, but in reality it was also part of the discussion. Confucius said, I do not participate. There are two ways to interpret this here. One way to interpret it is, if I do not participate in the sacrifice, it is as if there were no sacrifice. Here, if I myself do not personally take part in the ritual, then it's essentially the same as not having performed the ritual at all, because I personally did not participate in the sacred ritual myself when I participate in it personally. If I then take part personally, then whether for the ritual itself, worshipping gods or honoring ancestors, or even worshipping forest spirits, any of these, if I personally take part, the importance I attach to is different. Take seriously and value highly. If I didn't personally take part, that means I didn't value it that much. So I didn't participate in exactly the same thing. Sometimes we also say it's best to release animals yourself, and it's best to make offerings to monks yourself. If you don't do it yourself, it's the same as not doing it. In reality, there isn't such great merit. Whatever you do, what truly matters is your own sincerity. If you just donate a little money, that's still not the same as truly participating yourself. There's another way to interpret. There are two ways to interpret this. One way of interpreting it is, if I do not participate, the ritual is as if it was not performed. Punctuation in his version, the ritual is not ritual. It should explain this way. If that's the case, if I don't participate, the word you has different meanings. One is and, you and me. It means to participate or to praise. In ancient times, it could mean to praise. So when Confucius says, I do not praise, what is it that I do not praise? It's sacrificing as if not sacrificing. That kind of ritual, you see, is not really a ritual at all indeed. If your mind is not present during the ritual, I don't think that counts as a real ritual. A true ritual should be genuine and sincere, whether you visualize it in your mind or you recite prayers or follow the rules. It should truly feel like you are genuinely engaged in the activity. If that's not really the case, then I do not praise rituals that are just for mere show. Such a ritual doesn't even resemble a real ritual at all. It's just a superficial, purely performative act. I absolutely do not acknowledge it at all, in any way. So here on the very surface it may indeed seem that this is a Confucian classic, as everyone knows. But if we look at it from another perspective, from the standpoint of our own spiritual practice, there are also many similar things in our practice. Quite a few that are comparable. For example, we visualize Yidam, visualize Guru, practice Guru Yoga at those times. If we just recite the liturgy by reading the words, or simply attend a Dharma assembly, and everyone is chanting absent-mindedly without any truly real thought indeed in their hearts, then honestly, it's very much better not to recite at all. It's better not to participate in such activities. If you really want to do it, then your heart must be truly sincere. Sincerity always brings positive results. If your heart is truly and genuinely sincere, then everything is ultimately created by the power of the mind. If in your heart, whether we're talking about the Analects or discussing other things, most people already know the basics when others talk about them. Are you just giving a literal, surface-level explanation of the words, or have you truly understood the content with sincerity? If you have truly understood the content, then the words spoken by that person have a truly deep kind of nourishment, a special quality that can completely merge into your very own heart. You get that kind of feeling, right? In the past, when I translated the Terma text of Chokyi Wangchuk, there was a special section on the 7-line prayer. There are some explanations, and in it, it says that when your own mind changes, at the same time, others' minds also change and activity is accomplished. If you are able to change your own mind, then at the same time, the minds of others can also change. For example, when I tell the story of Guru Padmasambhava, I myself am truly and deeply moved. If I truly immerse myself in that world, then when others listen, they will be moved. In the past, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok taught, he spoke Buddha's biography, Sutra Wise and Foolish, Sutra 100 Karmas. At those times, His Holiness himself had truly entered into the story of the life of the Buddha. At that moment, everyone, why did people say His Holiness was powerful? It was because His Holiness had realized this truth. Otherwise, it would be the same as always, and everyone would say, there's no difference. But in reality, when he himself, when he had already merged into that world, he truly could, indeed, use such fundamental principles to precisely describe it. In the past, the Chinese classic doctrine of the mean also said, to serve the dead as if they were alive, to serve the departed as if they were still present, this is the utmost filial piety. This means that if we do anything for the deceased, it should be as if we are doing it for the living, or in terms of things. Even if something has already perished, if we do something properly for it, then indeed it is as if it still exists. This is the highest form of filial piety. In other words, this is a kind of filial devotion. Whatever we do, for example, when we hold a Nirvana Puja, we are praying for His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok. To truly pray for him, we should regard His Holiness as if he is still present in this world. If we think in this way, in the very end, we may indeed and ultimately receive such wonderful and desired blessings. The key point is what Confucius meant. If your heart is truly, truly engaged, but if your heart is not really in it, even if you speak eloquently and persuasively on the surface, or undertake something truly grand and genuinely impressive, no matter what actions you perform, it actually doesn't possess a great deal of inherent meaning or lasting significance. So in the future, when we are doing things, indeed, the great masters of the past have also said this. Even if you do a retreat, even if it's just for one day, if you pray with true sincerity, and truly recite sacred mantras with your heart completely and deeply settled and at peace, the effectiveness is extremely high. In the past, in the Forest of Pearls, in the Garden of the Dharma, a Chinese text, it says there, if you show respect with body and mind, for example, when you hear and recite the Buddha's name, you should truly visualize the Buddha's body in your heart, so that it feels as vivid as if it were right before your eyes. In the ritual practices of Shakyamuni Buddha, as mentioned earlier, whoever truly recalls the Buddha is indeed right in front of them. It's not that the Buddha has already passed away into nirvana, but rather is ever present. He has no distinction between friend or foe, near or far, because he has already transcended time and space. So whether we are praying or doing anything else, we must always maintain a truly sincere and pure heart. As was wisely said somewhere before, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas see all things without any obstruction whatsoever. I think it was Bodhisattva Shantideva who said this. So my every word and all my actions are always present before them, constantly. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas perceive us without any hindrance. When we truly pray, even though we cannot see them, they can see us. It's just like a sighted person in front of a blind person. The blind person cannot see, but the one with sight can see everything the blind person does. If we pray in this sincere and heartfelt way, then we will truly receive this kind of profound blessing. This indeed is also precisely what Confucius himself meant. Whether we are making offerings to monks or performing rituals, we shouldn't just focus on appearances at these times. When we perform traditional ritual incense offerings in Tibet nowadays, we throw lungta, shouting wawa and hehe. Everyone is tossing them, but they don't really know whether the gods and protector deities can see it or not. But in our hearts, it's more like a sense of curiosity. We watch those vibrant lungta, or wind horses, gracefully fluttering and dancing in the gentle breeze, and we can't help but think to ourselves, wow, that is truly a wonderful and inspiring sight to behold. But that's just an action. Yet for some specific actions, their intricate rituals and all their precise rules, even the smallest and most minute details, must be carefully observed. In the field of psychology, this deeply engaging state is now commonly called flow. It's like the mind is flowing. This is something that's quite popular online, something people pay attention to, just being fully engaged. Your mind is especially focused on whether it's just your loved ones, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Your mind is directly and fully invested in your object of focus. You become wholeheartedly and completely attached to it. At this critical time, the power reflected is exceptionally strong and remarkably potent. If you don't have this, and just focus on how many mantras you've recited, isn't it mentioned in the words of my perfect teacher? Many people are like this. The most essential part of recitation is chanting mantras, but if you don't chant them and just hold prayer beads like intestines every day, it doesn't really have much effect. The true essence truly lies in the sacred mantras or in the generation and completion stages. If you truly put significant effort into these practices, then the profound power of our recitation becomes exceptionally strong. So here, no matter what specific actions you undertake, there are mainly two crucial aspects to consider. One is that Confucius acknowledged the existence of heavenly deities, the existence of spirits. This is found everywhere and will be discussed further below. The other aspect is that he said that when we worship deities and when we offer sacrifices to the gods, we shouldn't simply organize grand, elaborate external ceremonies and rituals. There must be something truly genuine and sincere. The mind must always be reciting. The mind must be visualizing. In Buddhism as well, all phenomena are indeed created by the mind. The human mind is really very, very important indeed. The mind comes first. The mind is the fastest among all things. So this is a very important idea, this profound concept. This is how Confucius himself described his method of contemplation and practice. So we can also make a prostration as well. If someone's words are the same as the Tathagata's, they are worthy of reverence. Isn't the Uttara Tantra Shastra mentioned? Next, there is a particular term. Some people say it's pronounced Wangsun Jia, while others say it's Wangsun Gu. This is a polyphonic character. I've noticed that many people pronounce it differently. You can pronounce it however you like. The Jia in Jia Baoyu can also be used, or like in merchant, Shangjia, right? How do I pronounce it? I pronounce it as Jia. Wangsun Jia asked, rather than fawning over the ancestral shrine, why not fawn over the kitchen stove? What does this mean? Confucius said, that's not right. If you have offended heaven, there is no one you can pray to. Here, this individual Wangsun Jia is actually from another state entirely. He should be a high official, a military minister. Basically, he was a prominent minister in charge of all military affairs. This particular state of Wei was not the specific country where the revered Confucius was originally from. He actually went to Wei much later when he traveled extensively among the various states. As for this particular state of Wei, at that historical time, the established rules and everything else were pretty much chaotic. It was also a period of frequent and intense wars. Wangsun Jia then asked Confucius, saying, he said, rather than merely flattering the spirits of the inner chamber, why not instead flatter the kitchen god? What exactly does this profound statement mean? What he truly meant was, it's far better to flatter Mei means to curry favor with, to worship, and then ao, here ao refers to the revered deity enshrined in the southwest corner of the house is generally considered a household god. Among these household gods, the most highly revered is the kitchen god, who is also widely known as the stove god of the home. The previous ao is, in fact, a significant and deeply rooted element within their cultural tradition. It seems that in the southwest corner of the house there is a deity. He is completely in charge of the entire household, indeed the whole family. This is why it's often said, rather flatter the kitchen god, as his influence is paramount. The kitchen god is indeed the sole and exclusive deity who is in charge of the entire kitchen. Here, Wangsun Jia simply asks a simple question. There is a well-known saying that suggests it's often considered better to curry favor with or worship. Here, the Chinese character mei is specifically used, and it precisely means to flatter, to fawn over, or to ingratiate oneself with another person, often with an underlying motive or for personal gain. Should one truly endeavor to flatter the household deity, or is it perhaps better to flatter, let's say, the esteemed kitchen god? Which one is truly better? The underlying meaning is, if I am to curry favor with the household deity, is it truly better to curry favor with him, or perhaps indeed with the revered kitchen god then? Because the kitchen god is only in charge of a part of the house, while ao refers to the god of the entire household. So how should this be explained? At that time, actually, he meant something else as well. It seemed like he was asking you about the reasoning behind worshipping deities at home. When he asked this and Confucius thoughtfully answered, otherwise, he said, there's really no need to worship any of them. Whether it's the household gods or perhaps the kitchen god, there's absolutely no need to worship them at all. Otherwise, what exactly does that truly mean? If you were to offend heaven, then whatever you pray for, worship or sacrifice to, none of it will be of any use. Your prayers will be in vain. What he actually truly means is, his very quite indeed direct meaning is that whether it's the kitchen god or the household gods, actually, they are only in charge of a small domain. You can worship them or not, it doesn't really matter. You can try to curry favor with them if you want, or not curry favor with them, it's all the same. The most important thing, you must not go against the principles of heaven, the laws of cause and effect. You must not commit sins against them. If you do commit sins, if you end up offending all the heavenly gods, then your prayers will be useless as well. Worshipping these minor kitchen gods, household gods, or house gods doesn't really have much significant meaning. So, what exactly is the main point he is making here? From the profound meaning he conveys, it becomes quite clear at that particular time, the people of the state of Wei had a very high-ranking official positioned above them, and below there was essentially a powerful ruler or a sovereign king. The fundamental idea is, if you were to treat me with a bit more consideration, that would indeed be very good. Being truly good to the highest king is indeed what Confucius means by being good to you as well, in essence. It's not important to please the officials above, but you should be open and upright. If you conduct yourself with integrity, the natural order of heaven will not be violated. If not, nothing to worry about. But if violated, then, even if we treat you exceptionally well, or try to curry favor with the highest and most powerful ruler, it doesn't really mean much. There's also another interpretation. At that particular time, the powerful ruler of the ancient state of Wei, the ruler and I think his queen or consort, his queen was called Nanzi or something like that. This is explicitly mentioned in some very old and ancient books. It's as if the revered kitchen god was indeed his cherished queen. The monarch is the highest authority. So, who should you curry favor with? Who should you have a good relationship with? In fact, it's not necessary. Just be an open and upright person. So the indirect meaning here is that if I have a good relationship with the top leader or with a lower level leader, that's what Confucius was being asked about. Confucius said whether it's a high-ranking or low-ranking leader, there's no point in trying to curry favor with them. You should just focus on being a good person yourself. If you do that, then the greatest heaven, the highest spiritual power, indeed won't punish you at all. If you pray, this is truly the best way to do it. As we often say, the county magistrate is not as useful as the official in front of you. The county official isn't important as the one currently in charge. What they mean is, should you try to please the official right in front of you, is it better to curry favor with him or the highest ranking one? Confucius said, if you keep trying to please whoever is in front of you, today this person, tomorrow someone else. It's like what we call choosing sides nowadays. Today I have a good relationship with a lower level leader, but if I offend a higher level leader, that's not good. Or today I have a good relationship with a higher level leader, but the lower level leader is right by your side, and if he causes trouble for you, it's more trouble. So if your mind is restless, constantly trying to maintain good relations with this person or with that person isn't a good thing. Nowadays, when many people are actually doing things, they aren't truly honest or sincere in their hearts at all. Instead, they're always focused on outward appearances, like taking a photo, for example, or using some other method to deceive others. Or maybe this leader and we have a really good relationship, and then using this superior to pressure others. Or maybe I have a good relationship with someone below me, and through this connection, I wonder if I can improve my own position. Actually, this has already been described in great detail, whether it's people nowadays showing deference to those above them, trying to build connections or currying favor. These methods have already been explained very clearly. In fact, what Confucius meant was that even if you have a good relationship with someone today, it doesn't mean much. That relationship might not be meaningful. What really matters is that you sincerely do not go against the principles of heaven. If you can successfully achieve that, then that truly is the most optimal way. So, reflecting on the past, for us, wasn't it clearly mentioned within the Miscellaneous Treasures Sutra? On one occasion, the king was taking a peaceful rest during the midday hours. While he was briefly resting, two of his attendants started arguing fiercely. One said that relying on the king for a living was a good thing. The other said that relying on the king couldn't solve everything either, and that one should live by relying on karma. The one who believed in relying on the king said, "Everything I have in the future will be given to me by the king. Whatever the king says, I will listen to him." Later, when the king heard this, he thought this person was quite good. He felt he should reward him. So he promptly sent someone to tell his beloved queen, "If someone comes to you in a little while, give him gold, jewelry, and clothes. Give him a generous reward." Then he went to look for the one who lived by relying on the king just now, and asked, "Where is that person?" Spoke well of the king, overheard quietly. So he went to find this person. He drank half a cup of wine himself, all by himself. He specifically asked that this particular half cup of fine wine be graciously given to the esteemed queen. This person then started to head out. As he was leaving, he started to have a nosebleed. It just absolutely wouldn't stop. In the end, he truly had no other choice. He asked the other person, who lived by karma, to go in his place and deliver it to the queen. When it was delivered to the queen, since she had already been told in advance that someone would be sent over shortly, the queen gave him clothes, jewelry, and food. She gave him everything. After giving it to him, he returned. When he came back, the king indeed discovered that the one who lived as the king did not receive it, however, but the one who lived by karma did. Then he started to reflect on this himself. Actually, I am the king, but I tried to find a way to reward him together with the queen he did not receive. The person who lives by karma, truly, he has this karma, he has this kind of fate. So the king also had unwavering faith in this principle. Nowadays, many people try to establish a relationship with the guru. They think, if I have a better relationship with a certain guru, maybe things will go better for me. But in our institute, there really isn't such a thing. All those worldly ways of networking and building connections basically don't exist here. But in the secular world, having connections means having opportunities for advancement. But sometimes these relationships can also be very troublesome if you just live truly honestly and sincerely indeed, and uphold the view of cause and effect, then your truly genuine good karma will indeed. Not even a king can stop it. If you go around doing all sorts of things, as many people are especially good at nowadays, saying one thing in front of this person today and saying something else in front of another person tomorrow, in reality it's like you have to do a lot of things yourself. So we encounter this kind of situation very, very often. As for these kinds of people, heaven's way is not partial, it always sides with the good. Didn't Laozi say this before? He said that the way of heaven, it's not partial to any particular person. It's not like, oh, my own relatives treat me well. That's not how it works. The true way of heaven always sides with good people, in ancient times, and it's now. People who understand these principles and those who truly do good deeds, in the end, others get used to it and feel like this person doesn't really mean much. This person is always up to all sorts of things, and you can tell at a glance. So when we act, even though the times have changed to what they are now, we should still strive to be good people ourselves. Even if the whole world is truly filled with completely evil people, as long as we uphold noble conduct ourselves. This is extremely important, because many of the behaviors around us can also contaminate us, and this truly makes a very significant difference. Next, it clearly states, Confucius wisely said, the great Zhou dynasty took the excellent example of the two previous powerful dynasties. How truly splendid and incredibly rich its culture is. I wholeheartedly follow Zhou. This is what Confucius said. As for the Zhou dynasty, it took lessons from the two previous dynasties. Jian here, in our usual terms, is equivalent to the jian in to draw lessons from or to take as a reference. It means the same thing. He said that the Zhou dynasty actually did very well. How did it do so well? It meticulously drew valuable lessons from the two preceding and influential dynasties, specifically the Shang and the Xia. All the truly commendable and enduring traditions of both the Shang and Xia dynasties, indeed all their profound and accumulated essence, had been carefully gathered and preserved, and the bad parts were discarded. That's why it is said how splendid and rich its culture is. Their civilization, their culture, their values, their cherished rituals, all these incredibly rich and colorful elements were carefully gathered together. He emphatically stated that the Zhou dynasty was truly excellent. The Zhou dynasty brought together all the good aspects of the two previous dynasties. All these good qualities were gathered together. That's why he said, I follow Zhou. Confucius said, I take the Zhou dynasty as my model, because between Confucius and the Zhou dynasty began with King Wen of Zhou, and between the great King Wen of Zhou and the Confucius, there were at least 400 years, but he held it in high esteem, including in other contexts there was the Duke of Zhou. There were also 400 or 500 years between them, but he often dreamed of him. Confucius was like the venerable Jigme Lingpa, receiving the blessings of the venerable Longchenpa. Confucius especially felt that among all these dynasties, the Zhou dynasty did very well. Why is that? Because it continuously inherited all the good aspects of the previous dynasties, carrying them forward without interruption, and discarded and abandoned all the bad aspects. So he felt the Zhou dynasty was excellent. In fact, the Zhou dynasty played a significant role in our Tibetan culture as well, including things like the current Zhouyi, the 8 trigrams, and even our present-day divination and calendar calculations. As well as the 28 lunar mansions, all of these important celestial divisions were transmitted from the ancient Han region. The Zhouyi of the Han region already existed before, but the culture of King Wen of Zhou and the Zhou dynasty was very well developed at that time. So it was not only the culture of the Zhou dynasty in the Han region that influenced Tibet and India, it has influenced Iran. A lot of people studied there, so this is actually very meaningful. Therefore, when we study it in the future, we should additionally take a look at this indeed. As for Confucius, he was not a creator, but he was an outstanding inheritor. He did not invent, he was not an inventor, but regarding the excellent cultures of previous dynasties, from all the many different dynasties, he truly wanted to preserve every single one of them completely. So, as for the Han region, in fact, there is also a lot of Confucian culture. If we look at some aspects of Tibetan culture, including some records of Tibetan kings and ministers, it is said that there are also many such elements in them, including during the reign of King Songtsen Gampo. At that time, Princess Wenqing brought some culture with her. Later, some historical records mention that she required those noble youths to go to the Han region to study historical records and history. There were several books, some of which were translated. Later there was also Princess Jincheng. Princess Jincheng is well known to everyone. She was also of Han Chinese descent, and she was indeed the mother of Trisong Detsen, a significant historical figure. As for now, Trisong Detsen's mother, the mother of Trisong Detsen, although there are some different accounts about her in history, but regardless of that, she was the wife of Kri de Zugzijn. There is no real dispute about this. Later, when she eventually passed away, it was also in Tibet. During her time there, truly significant, there were also many translations and exchanges of traditional culture. Now in Dunhuang, if we have the opportunity after a while, we can also study it then, such as the dialogue between Xiang Tuo and the Prime Minister. I've also cross-checked that one. The Chinese and Tibetan versions are both in rather ancient and very historical language. But if translated into modern vernacular, it should be quite easy to understand. It's about Confucius and a child named Xiang Tuo and the debate between the two of them. Moreover, this is found in the Dunhuang manuscripts, and the calligraphy is very well done. Now, some people have also typed it out. You can see it. I'll send it to everyone later and you can compare. The Q&A between this child and Confucius, this kind of Q&A is really fascinating. We can talk about it in future. Let's take a look at the written version of this. Look at Confucius.
When the
time comes, I'll send all of this to everyone. Now we also have this, the text we've already typed out. I'll send it all together then. Actually, many of the characters in the Dunhuang manuscripts look just like this nowadays. This is about the ancient connection between Confucius and our Tibetan culture. There are some truly significant Dunhuang collections, so you can quite easily take a good look at them when the appropriate time comes. There should have been a great deal of cultural and historical exchanges back then. There were some exchanges of teachings between Confucius and Tibet. Of course, this wasn't in Tibet itself. But at that particular time, Tibetans truly valued the traditional culture of the Han region. This isn't something from modern times. It should be from the early propagation period. And also during the later propagation period. There should be such a history. Due to time constraints, we'll stop here for today.
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye